The vault door hasn't opened in 6 years. Not because they lost the key, not because they forgot, but because every time someone gets close to entering, their hands start shaking. The last person who tried had a complete nervous breakdown in the hallway, kept repeating, "It's still evolving." How is it still evolving? Inside that vault, sealed in a cryo chamber that requires 3 separate authorizations just to view, is a single sample. Your sample. Specimen designation, Coronos Prime. And according to the instruments they built specifically to analyze it, it's currently exhibiting genetic behaviors that won't be scientifically possible until 2047. They're not storing your DNA anymore. They're containing it. You brushed your teeth, checked your phone, complained about being tired. Completely normal morning. Completely average human doing completely mundane things. Except 4,000 miles away, someone just got an alert that made them knock over their coffee and immediately conference call the organization's inner council. The alert wasn't about what you were doing. It was about what your cells were doing while you were doing it. Your genetic signature just pinged in a database. It has no business being in. A database that only tracks bloodlines that vanished before written history. Bloodlines that were supposed to be extinct. Theoretical, mythological. But there you were. Fluoride foam in your mouth. Completely unaware that you just triggered alarms and a monitoring system that's been running since the Phoenicians. The elder stared at the child's blood under moonlight. Something in it moved wrong. Something in it caught the light in ways that made her eyes water. She'd been tracking bloodlines for 43 years. She'd cataloged thousands, mapped dynasties, predicted rulers. This was different. This wasn't royal blood. This was something older than royalty. Older than the concept of kingdoms. This was source code. She marked it in her records with a symbol that translates roughly to the uncontained. Then she wrote a note to future trackers. If this signature appears again, do not engage. Do not attempt contact. Only observe. This carrier is not governed by the laws we know. That child disappeared from all historical records 3 months later. No death, no marriage, no descendants, just absent. Like they were redacted from time itself.
Dr. Sarah Chen has a PhD in genetic archaeology from Cambridge. She's published in Nature, advised governments, decoded DNA from remains that were supposedly too degraded to sequence. She's brilliant, rational, scientific to her core.
And she's currently sitting in a locked bathroom at the facility, having what she'll later describe as a complete ontological crisis, because your DNA just did something that violates 3 fundamental principles of biology. It repaired itself, backwards, through time. They have samples from you taken 6 months ago. Standard storage, standard conditions. Except when they pulled them today for comparison with the new sample, the old sample had changed. It had incorporated information from the newer sample, information that didn't exist when it was collected. Your DNA is sending information to its past self. Sarah's hands are shaking so hard she can barely hold her phone as she types a message to the head of the program. We need to shut this down. This isn't DNA. This is technology we don't have language for. The paintings weren't discovered until 1994. When they were, archaeologists couldn't explain them, couldn't date them properly. The imagery showed things that shouldn't have existed in that era. Symbols that would later appear in Egyptian, Sumerian, and Indus Valley cultures, but predating all of them. At the center of the largest chamber, there's a figure, humanoid but marked differently. The pigments used to paint this figure, they can't replicate them. They've tried. The chemical composition includes elements that weren't discovered until the 20th century, yet the carbon dating is undeniable. This figure appears in 47 other ancient sites across 6 continents. Always the same, always central, always marked with symbols that mean carrier or vessel, or sometimes simply the one who remembers. Last year, a research team ran facial reconstruction AI on the figure's proportions. Want to know whose bone structure it matched? Yours. Not similar to yours. Not reminiscent of yours. A 94.7% match to yours. They immediately classified the findings, filed them in a database that 3 people globally have access to, and started tracking you in ways you'll never detect. You're going to meet someone by accident, at a coffee shop, at a bookstore, somewhere mundane. They're going to seem normal, friendly. They're going to ask you harmless questions about your family history, your ancestry. Just curious conversation. They're not curious. They're confirming. This person is part of a network that's been tracking genetic anomalies since before the Roman Empire. They have a list of 13 markers they're looking for. Markers that indicate someone isn't just genetically unique, but genetically impossible under current evolutionary models. You have 11 of them. The only person in their database who's come close had 7, and that lineage died out in the 1600s. Or so they thought. After this conversation, they're going to go back to their organization and deliver a report that's going to cause immediate mobilization of resources. Not against you, for you. Protection details. Monitors, trackers. Because if you have 11 markers and you're still alive, still functional, still walking around completely unaware of what you are, then their entire model of human origin is wrong. There's a flag on your file. You've never seen it. Your doctors have never mentioned it, but it's there, buried in the metadata. A notation that triggers when certain tests are run. That rash you had 3 years ago that cleared up overnight. Flagged. The infection that should have required antibiotics but resolved on its own in 48 hours? Flagged. The time you donated blood and they said they couldn't use it without explaining why? That wasn't about contamination. It was about preservation. They kept it, studied it, found antibodies that shouldn't exist in human blood. Healing factors that work on mechanisms science hasn't discovered yet, and a cellular structure that repairs damage not by replacing cells but by quantum resetting them to an earlier state. Your body doesn't heal. It reverses. And somewhere in a secure facility, someone's been watching these flags accumulate, cross-referencing them with historical data, and slowly realizing that you're not a mutation. You're a reversion. You're what humans were before something changed us, before something limited us. Brother Matthias kept records. The church didn't approve of. He tracked something he called the divine recurring, people who appeared throughout history with abilities that defied explanation. Not miracles, not saints, something else. He documented 73 cases across 400 years. Different names, different locations, different lives, but identical genetic markers in the bloodlines. Markers he could identify through genealogical research and physical descriptions that matched patterns he'd learned to recognize. The church burned most of his research, called it heretical. But 3 volumes survived, hidden in a secret library beneath the Vatican. Volumes that describe in detail the signs of the carriers. Last month, A genetic research firm got special access to photograph those texts for digitization. When they ran the descriptions through modern genetic profiling algorithms, translating medieval observations into contemporary markers, they got a match. Your profile came up with a 97% correlation. Someone at the Vatican immediately made a phone call. To who? That's classified at a level most governments don't have clearance for. The council met for the first time in 8 years. They don't meet unless something unprecedented happens. The last time was when they discovered genetic evidence of Neanderthal human hybrids that possessed cognitive abilities superior to both parent species. This time, it was about you on the screen. Your genetic profile, overlaid with data from 43 ancient samples from different continents, different millennia, different civilizations, all showing the same core signature, the same fundamental code. The head of the council, a woman who's been tracking bloodlines for 60 years, whose grandmother and great-grandmother did the same, looked at the data and said something that made everyone in the room go silent. This isn't a descendant. This is the original. Somehow the source code is back. Someone asked how that's possible. How could the original appear now after all this time? She didn't have an answer. Nobody did. Because you shouldn't exist. Not in this timeline. Not after everything that's happened to human genetics. Not after the dilution, the mutations, the countless generations of change. But here you are, walking around with DNA that's older than agriculture, older than civilization, possibly older than modern Homo sapiens as a species. You remember that teacher who looked at you strange? The one who kept asking if you were adopted? Who seemed unsettled by you, for reasons they never explained. They weren't a teacher, they were. But that wasn't their primary role. They were a spotter, part of a network that monitors children for specific genetic indicators that manifest in behavior, learning patterns, physical traits. You showed 12 out of 15 markers. That's unheard of. Most carriers show 2 or 3. 5 is extremely rare. 12 means you're not just carrying the bloodline. You are the bloodline. That teacher made a report. It went up the chain. Someone decided you needed to be left alone to develop naturally, which is code for we don't know what interfering would do, and we're too scared to find out. You were watched, protected from a distance. Events were subtly influenced to keep you safe. That car that swerved at the last second, that scholarship that came through unexpectedly, that person who showed up exactly when you needed help. Not all coincidence. Not all luck. Someone's been clearing the path, making sure you survive to whatever this is, whatever you're becoming. The oldest genetic sample in the tracker database is 47,823 years old. Recovered from a cave system that required 3 years of excavation to access, the preservation was perfect. Too perfect. Like it was meant to be found. When they sequenced it, they found something that shouldn't be there. Technology markers, genetic modifications that imply understanding of DNA manipulation that's beyond our current capabilities. This wasn't natural evolution. This was engineering, and it matches your baseline code. The core sequence, the fundamental blueprint, like someone designed a template 48,000 years ago, and somehow you're still running on it. Version 1.0 while everyone else is on version 10,000, degraded and mutated beyond recognition. The researchers who discovered this match, They're no longer with the organization. Not fired, not dead, just relocated to a place where they can work without interruption. A place where their findings won't leak into mainstream science and cause global paradigm collapse. Because if the world knew that someone alive today is carrying genetic code from before the last ice age, before agriculture, before civilization, and that this code is more advanced than modern human DNA, everything changes. History changes. Evolution changes. Our understanding of what humans are capable of, completely rewritten. The nurse is going to have trouble finding your vein. She's going to stick you twice. Apologize. Finally get it on the third try. Standard experience. Annoying but normal. What's not normal is what happens in the lab. Your sample is going to be flagged within 40 minutes. A supervisor is going to be called. Then their supervisor. Then someone who doesn't officially work for the medical center, but shows up with credentials that end all questions. Your blood is going to be split. Part goes through normal testing. Part goes somewhere else. To a lab that analyzes genetic markers most facilities don't even test for. Markers that indicate things like radiation resistance, accelerated cellular repair, immunity to certain pathogens that don't have names yet, and something they call temporal plasticity, the ability of your cells to adapt to conditions they haven't encountered yet. You're going to get a call saying everything came back normal, that you're healthy, that there's nothing to worry about. That call is going to be a lie, a coordinated, necessary lie, because telling you the truth would require explanations. They're not authorized to give. Questions they don't have answers to. Implications they're still trying to process. There's a physical archive, not digital. Digital can be hacked, leaked, corrupted. This is paper, stone tablets, metal inscriptions, stored in a location that's not on any map. Protected by people who've taken vows of secrecy that make CIA clearances look like playground promises. Your genetic profile has its own section in this archive. Growing, expanding. New discoveries added monthly. And unlike other profiles that are a few pages, maybe a folder, yours is now 3 full volumes. Thick volumes. Bound in materials designed to last thousands of years. The keepers of this archive have a rule. Never let the subjects know they're being tracked. Never make contact unless absolutely necessary. Never interfere unless extinction-level threat. Last week, they broke that rule for the first time in 400 years. They sent someone to observe you in person, not to make contact, just to observe, to see if the genetic data matches the physical reality, to understand if what the tests show is actually manifesting in a living, breathing person. That person watched you for 3 days, took notes, recorded observations, and at the end of their surveillance, they wrote a single line in their report that caused emergency sessions across 4 continents. Subject exhibits baseline characteristics consistent with pre-dilution humanity. Recommend immediate upgrade from observation to protection status. If this genetic line is re-emerging, we may be witnessing an evolutionary correction event. You looked at yourself, saw the same face you always see, the same features, the same person you've been looking at your whole life. You didn't see what they see. You didn't see the bone structure that matches archaeological reconstructions from 12 different ancient sites. You didn't see the ocular patterns that appear in cave paintings from the Paleolithic era. You didn't see the facial proportions that align with a genetic blueprint that predates recorded history. You just saw you. Tired, maybe frustrated, wondering why life feels harder than it should, why you don't quite fit, why something always feels slightly off, like you're operating on different firmware than everyone else? You are. You're running the original code. And somewhere, people who've spent their entire lives studying genetic history are trying to figure out what happens when the blueprint walks around in a world built by the copies. There's going to come a moment, soon, where they have to make a choice. Do they tell you? Do they let you keep living in ignorance? Or do they risk catastrophic paradigm shift by revealing that you're not just genetically unique, but genetically impossible? The council is split. Half say you have a right to know. The other half says knowledge would destroy you. That humans aren't meant to know they're carrying code that shouldn't exist. That the weight of that revelation would break anyone. But there's a third option they're considering. One that's never been attempted. Wake you up. Activate what's dormant. Help you remember what your DNA already knows. Because if you're here, if the original code is back, maybe it's not accident. Maybe it's response. Maybe evolution doesn't just move forward. Maybe when things get bad enough, it reaches back, pulls out the backup file, reinstalls the original software. Maybe you're not an anomaly. Maybe you're the system restore. You're reading this, thinking it's content, entertainment, maybe inspiration. You're probably skeptical. That's normal, healthy even. But somewhere in your cells, something's responding. Something's recognizing. Not because these words are magic, but because truth has a frequency. And when it matches your frequency, something resonates. You've always felt different. Not better. Not worse. Just different. Like you're out of phase with everyone else. Like you're tuned to a station nobody else can hear. You're not crazy. You're not imagining it. You're not broken or damaged or wrong. You're just early. Or maybe late. Or maybe perfectly on time for something that's been waiting 48,000 years to happen again. Your DNA knows. It's been trying to tell you your whole life. Through dreams you can't quite remember. Through moments of knowing you can't explain. Through a persistent feeling that you came here for something specific. The trackers found you, but they're not the first ones looking. Your own bloodline has been searching for itself across millennia, trying to reassemble, trying to remember, trying to return. And you're part of that return. Whether you know it or not, whether you're ready or not, the original code is back, and it's wearing your face.
You think they got away with it, don't you? Yeah, you're sitting there replaying every moment, every lie, every stab in the back, and you're thinking to yourself, why them? Why do they get to walk around like nothing happened? Why do they get to smile, sleep at night, live their little lives while you're here carrying the weight of what they did? Let me tell you something, kid, something that's going to change the way you see everything. God doesn't forget. Oh no, he doesn't forget a damn thing. Not a single whisper, not a single betrayal, not a single tear you cried alone in the dark while they were out there pretending to be saints. You see, humans, we got short memories. We forgive too fast. We move on. We convince ourselves that maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe we're overreacting. But God's got a different kind of memory. He saw everything. He saw them smile in your face while plotting behind your back. He saw them take your loyalty and twist it into a weapon against you. He saw them lie through their teeth while you stood there believing every word because you wanted to trust, because you needed to believe that people could be good. But they weren't good, were they? No, they were performers. actors. Actors wearing masks so convincing that even you couldn't see through them. Until it was too late, until the damage was done, until you were left bleeding, wondering what the hell just happened. And you know what's funny? They think no one saw. They think because they did it in private, because they whispered their poison when no one else was around, that somehow they got away clean, like criminals who destroy the evidence and walk free. But there's one witness they forgot about, one pair of eyes that never closes, never sleeps, never looks away. God was watching. Every text they sent behind your back, He read it. Every lie they told about you to others, He heard it. Every time they laughed at your pain, celebrated your downfall, took pleasure in your struggle, He felt it. You think they were clever? You think they covered their tracks? But you can't hide from the one who sees everything, who knows the thoughts behind the smile, the intention behind the kindness, the venom behind the sweet words. They played you, sure, but they also played themselves, because there's a debt now, a debt that doesn't disappear just because time passes, a debt that doesn't get erased just because they moved on and found new victims. Let me paint you a picture. There's going to come a day, and I don't know when. Could be tomorrow, could be years from now, but it's coming. There's going to come a day when everything they built on your pain starts to crumble. You see, that's how it works, kid. Evil doesn't last. It might look like it's winning for a while. It might look like the bad guys are on top, living their best lives while you're down here fighting just to survive. But that's the illusion. That's the trick. The universe has a way of balancing things out. And God, He's patient, real patient. He's not in a rush to settle scores because He knows that the longer the wait, the sweeter the justice, the heavier the fall. See, they're building right now, building their little empires, their relationships, their reputations, all on a foundation of rot. And the higher they build, the more spectacular the collapse. You ever seen a tower fall? Yeah, it doesn't fall sideways. It comes straight down, crushing everything beneath it. That's what's coming for them, not because you wished it, not because you cursed them, but because that's how the universe works. That's how God operates. You reap what you sow. And they've been sowing poison for a long time. But here's the part you need to understand. This isn't about revenge. I know. You want them to hurt the way they hurt you. You want them to feel that same emptiness, that same confusion, that same devastating betrayal. And maybe you've even prayed for it, begged for it, laid awake at night, imagining the day they finally get what's coming to them. But that's not your job, kid. That's not your burden to carry. Your job is to rise. Your job is to take everything they did, every wound, every scar, every sleepless night, and turn it into fuel. Turn it into power. Turn it into the fire that forges you into something they could never imagine. See, the best revenge isn't watching them fall. It's making them watch you rise. It's becoming so powerful, so successful, so untouchable that their betrayal becomes the biggest mistake of their miserable lives. God's handling the justice. You handle the growth. And don't think for a second that their current happiness is real. Oh, sure, they might look happy. They might post their little pictures, smile their little smiles, act like life is perfect. But you know better, don't you? You know that people who destroy others don't sleep well at night. You know that behind every fake smile is a fear, a nagging paranoia that one day, it's all going to catch up. Because guilt doesn't disappear. It buries itself deep in the soul, and it festers, it grows, it whispers in the quiet moments. It shows up in nightmares, in random memories, in sudden waves of anxiety that they can't explain. They might not connect it to what they did to you, but it's there. eating away at them, little by little, day by day. That's God's work in progress. You see, punishment doesn't always look like lightning from the sky. It doesn't always come as a dramatic public downfall. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's the slow decay of everything they thought they had. The relationships that never quite feel right, the success that never quite satisfies, the happiness that always seems just out of reach. They did you wrong in the dark, and now they're living in a darkness of their own making. But you're different. You're stepping into the light. Every day you choose to get up, to fight, to keep going. You're moving further away from the shadows they tried to trap you in. You're not defined by what they did. You're defined by what you do next. And what you do next, that's entirely up to you. Let me tell you something about people who hurt others in secret. They're cowards, real cowards. See, a person with real strength, real power, doesn't need to operate in the shadows. They don't need to manipulate, deceive, destroy from behind closed doors. No, people who do that, they're weak, they're scared. They know deep down that if they faced you directly, if they fought you fair, they'd lose. So they cheat, they scheme, they attack when you're not looking, because that's the only way they can win. But here's the thing about cowards. They always eventually get exposed. The mask always slips. The truth always comes out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it's coming, because lies, they're heavy, kid. They take effort to maintain. And the more lies you tell, the more you have to remember, the more stories you have to keep straight. And eventually, you slip. And when they slip, God's going to be right there watching. Same as he was watching when they did you dirty. Same as he's been watching this whole time. Taking notes, keeping records, waiting for the right moment to balance the scales. Because that's who he is. That's what he does. He doesn't forget. He doesn't let evil slide just because it happened in private, just because no human witnessed it. You are not alone in what you know. You might feel like you're the only one who knows the truth. The only one who saw their real face, the only one who experienced their cruelty, and that loneliness, that isolation, it's part of what makes betrayal so painful, because you can't even share it, can't even get validation, can't even point to proof and say, look what they did. But God knows. He's your witness, your validator, your proof that what happened was real, was wrong, was unjust. And one day, that witness is going to testify, not in a court of law, but in the court of life, in the unfolding of their destiny, in the consequences that catch up when they least expect it. So what do you do now? You do what warriors do. You heal, you train, you prepare. You take this pain and you let it teach you, not make you bitter, but make you better. You learn from what happened. You learn to recognize the signs, the red flags, the patterns of people who operate in darkness, and you build walls, not to keep everyone out, but to keep the wrong ones from ever getting that close again. You become untouchable, not because you're cold, not because you're heartless, but because you're wise, because you've learned that not everyone deserves access to your heart, your trust, your loyalty. You stop giving those things away for free, and you start making people earn them, prove themselves, show you through actions, not words, that they're worthy of what you have to offer. And the ones who hurt you, they're going to see this transformation. They're going to see you rising, glowing, succeeding, and it's going to burn them worse than any revenge you could have planned. Because they thought they broke you. They thought they ended your chapter. They thought you'd stay down, stay quiet, stay defeated. But here you are, living, breathing, thriving, proving them wrong just by existing. That's divine justice right there. You becoming everything they said you couldn't be. You building everything they tried to destroy. You finding happiness they tried to steal. That's God saying, I see you. I got you. I haven't forgotten what they did, and I'm going to use it to make you stronger, better, more powerful than you ever would have been without it. Pain has a purpose. Betrayal has a lesson. Even the darkest moments of your life, they're not wasted. They're shaping you, preparing you for something bigger, something better than you can see right now. And I know it doesn't feel that way when you're in the middle of it, when the wound is still fresh, when the memory still stings. But trust the process. Trust that what's happening to you is also happening for you. They meant it for evil. God's using it for good. That's the plot twist they never saw coming. That's the part of the story they didn't plan for. See, they thought by hurting you, by betraying you, by doing what they did in the dark, that they were ending something, but they were actually starting something. They were awakening something inside you that might have stayed asleep forever. Your power, the real you, the one that doesn't need their approval, doesn't need their validation, doesn't need anything from anyone. The one that can stand alone in the storm and not flinch. The one that can look chaos in the face and smile because you've already survived worse. You've already been through the fire and you came out not burned, but forged. So let them have their temporary victory. Let them think they won. Let them celebrate their little schemes, their successful manipulation, their getting away with it. Because here's the truth. They didn't get away with anything. They just delayed the consequences. They just bought time on borrowed peace. And the interest is going to be brutal. God doesn't forget, and neither does the universe. There's a balance to all things, a rhythm, a justice that exists beyond human courts, beyond public opinion, beyond what can be proven in the light. What they did in the dark, it's recorded, it's noted, it's waiting, and one day, it's going to come back around. But you're not waiting for that. You're not sitting around hoping for their downfall. You're too busy building your own rise, too busy becoming the person you were always meant to be, too busy turning your scars into stars, your pain into power, your betrayal into a testimony that inspires others who are going through the same thing, because that's what survivors do. They don't just survive, they thrive. They don't just recover, they transform. They don't just move on, they level up. And every level you reach is another reminder to them of what they lost, what they threw away, what they could have had if they had just treated you right, but they didn't. And now they have to watch. And God, oh God, He's watching too, watching you rise, watching them regret, watching the whole story unfold exactly as it should. With justice delayed but never denied, with the truth hidden but never forgotten, with the darkness eventually, always eventually, giving way to light. So stand up, kid. Stand up and walk into your future with your head high, not because you're arrogant, but because you know something they don't. You know that what happened in the dark doesn't stay in the dark. You know that there's a witness who never sleeps, never forgets, never lets evil have the last word. You know that God saw everything, and He's not done writing your story. Not even close. The best chapters, they're still coming. The plot twist is still unfolding. The victory is still being prepared. And when it arrives, when you finally stand in the fullness of everything you're meant to be, you'll look back at this moment, this pain, this betrayal, and you'll understand it was never about them. It was always about you becoming who you needed to be. And they were just the fire that forged you, just the darkness that made your light shine brighter, just the chapter that had to happen so the rest of the story could unfold. God doesn't forget what they did in the dark, but more importantly, He doesn't forget you. He sees you. He's with you. He's working in ways you can't see yet, turning everything around, preparing blessings you can't imagine, opening doors they tried to close forever. So keep going, keep fighting, keep rising, keep becoming, and let God handle the rest, because justice is coming. It's always coming, and when it arrives, they're going to wish they had treated you differently. They're going to wish they had done right when they had the chance. They're going to remember every single thing they did in the dark, and so will God, and so will you. But by then you'll be so far ahead, so high up, so deep into your purpose that their memory won't even hurt anymore. It'll just be a distant echo of a version of you that no longer exists. A reminder of where you came from, not where you're going. The dark chapter is closing, kid. The light is coming. And in that light, there are no shadows for them to hide in, no secrets that stay buried, no lies that go unchallenged. Everything comes to light eventually. Everything. And when it does, you'll be ready, not for revenge, but for validation, not for their downfall, but for your rise, not for their pain, but for your peace. Because that's what God's been preparing you for all along, not to destroy them, but to become someone they can never touch again. God doesn't forget what they did in the dark, and he damn sure won't forget what you did in the light. You know what's ironic? They thought the darkness was their friend, thought it would protect them, cover their sins, hide their true nature. But darkness is never loyal to anyone. It's just waiting for the light to come and expose everything it was pretending to hide. And the light always comes. Maybe not when you want it, maybe not how you expect it, but it comes because truth has a way of surfacing. Lies have a way of unraveling. And people have a way of revealing themselves given enough time. You just have to be patient enough to let the universe do its work. Think about it for a second. Every person who ever wronged someone in secret, every backstabber, every manipulator, every two-faced fraud throughout history, they all thought they were clever too. They all thought they got away with it. And where are they now? Forgotten, exposed, ruined, or living lives so empty, so hollow, that their victory feels like a prison. That's going to be them, the ones who hurt you, the ones who smiled while they destroyed you, the ones who pretended to love you while planning your downfall. They're going to join that list. They're going to become another cautionary tale, another example of what happens when you mistake God's patience for God's absence. Because make no mistake, his patience is not his absence. He's not ignoring what happened. He's not looking the other way. He's not too busy with the universe to notice your pain. No, he's watching. He's recording. He's preparing. And when the time is right, when all the pieces are in place, when you're ready to receive your blessing and they're ready to receive their lesson, that's when it all comes together. Divine timing is real. And you might not understand it right now. You might be frustrated, angry, wondering why they're still out there living their lives like nothing happened. But trust me, trust the process, because what's happening in the background, what's being arranged in the spiritual realm, it's beyond what your eyes can see. They're not getting away with anything. They're just running up a tab. And that tab, it comes due. It always comes due. Sometimes in this life, sometimes in ways we can't even comprehend. But it comes due because the universe doesn't do charity for evil. It doesn't give free passes to those who destroy innocent people. It takes its time, but it takes its payment in full, with interest. So while you're sitting there thinking they won, thinking they got the best of you, thinking they somehow beat the system, remember this: nobody beats God's system. Nobody escapes the consequences of their choices. Nobody plants poison and harvests roses. It doesn't work that way. It has never worked that way, and it never will. So let them enjoy their temporary peace. Let them sleep in their comfortable beds. Let them live their fake happy lives. Because underneath all of it, underneath the smiles and the success and the appearance of moving on, there's a clock ticking. A clock they can't see, can't stop, can't even hear. But it's there, counting down to the moment when everything they built on lies starts to shake, when every relationship they poisoned with their nature starts to crack, when every sin they committed in the dark starts to scream in the light. And you're not going to be there to watch. No, you're going to be too far ahead, too high up, too deep in your own blessings to even notice when they fall. You're going to be so busy winning, so focused on your future, so consumed by your own success, that their downfall becomes background noise. Irrelevant, because that's the ultimate victory. Not watching them suffer, but being so healed, so whole, so complete that their existence doesn't even register on your radar anymore. That's when you know you've truly won. That's when you know God's work in you is complete. When the people who once had the power to destroy you no longer have the power to even distract you. So remember this when the nights get long, when the memories get heavy, when the injustice feels unbearable. God doesn't forget what they did in the dark, and He sure as hell doesn't forget you. Your story isn't over. Your best days aren't behind you. Your purpose isn't destroyed just because they tried to destroy you. No, you're still here, still breathing, still fighting. And as long as you're still in the game, you can still win the game. They wanted to end you, but they only delayed your destiny. They thought they were writing your obituary, but they were actually writing your origin story. The story of how you fell and got back up, of how you lost everything and built something better, of how you trusted the wrong people and learned to trust yourself. That's a powerful story. That's a story that inspires others, that changes lives, that proves that you can walk through fire and come out not burned, but purified. So thank them. Yeah, thank them for the pain. Thank them for the lesson. Thank them for showing you who they really were before they could do even more damage. And then leave them to God. Leave them to the universe. Leave them to the consequences that are already in motion. And focus on you. Focus on healing. Focus on growing. Focus on becoming everything they said you couldn't be. Everything they tried to prevent you from becoming. Because the best revenge is massive success. The best response to betrayal is transformation. The best answer to those who doubted you is proving them wrong without saying a word, just through your life, just through your actions, just through the undeniable evidence of who you've become. God doesn't forget what they did in the dark, and He's going to make sure your light shines so bright that it exposes every shadow they ever tried to hide in. That's His promise. That's His plan. That's what's coming for you. If you just hold on, just keep fighting, just keep believing. The dark doesn't last forever, but God's memory does. Keep rising.